If you're anything like me, you've been itching to get on your bike after the winter, and now that this virus has taken over our lives, you know, it's a good opportunity to get out on your bike and get some fresh air and do some social distancing. So I got my bike out of the garage here, and I noticed it has a flat tire. So, you know, that's not gonna get you very far very fast. So we're gonna have to change this bad boy. So I'm gonna show you how to take this wheel and tire off, change the tube, re-inflate, so you are back in business, ready to go. One of the first things is taking the brakes apart so we can get the wheel off in some of the later steps. So we've got some rim brakes here, actuated by a cable. We're gonna pinch those together and remove that cable so that the pads open up. We're gonna get a chance to use some of the tools that we've talked about for the past couple days. One of those tools is going to be a wrench. What type of wrench is this? You should know. And what do we have going on here? Okay, so first I'll demonstrate using this combination wrench. Holding the bike frame still and loosening that hex nut. Then I can take and loosen it up with my fingers. I don't need to take it all the way off, I just needed to loosen that little sandwich. On the other side, I'll demonstrate using this socket wrench. Place that socket on that hex nut and start to loosen. That should free up the wheel. Whenever you're taking something apart, it's a good idea to snap a picture so that when it's time to put it back together, you have a reference of what it looked like before you took it apart. So now that you've broken everything loose, you can remove that chain and start to work the wheel and tire out. The next step requires getting the tube out of the tire. I really recommend getting a set of tire levers to help you out with it. We're gonna start with removing the valve stem cap and making sure that there's not much air left in that tube. I'm gonna start to dig in with this side of the tire lever. I wanna get right under the bead of the tire and kind of pry it over the rim, and then I can hook it to one of the spokes. Now I can start another tire lever and start to work more of the tire bead out. Sometimes, depending on the temperature of the tire, the tightness of the tire, you may need 3. But this one, since it's nice and warm out today, I only need 2. So I'm gonna work the entire bead out. I can remove that lever, and now I should be able to access that tube. I'm gonna get that tube out. I'm gonna get the valve stem out of the rim of the wheel. And I can remove that dead tube. When you are buying a new tube for a bicycle, the size should be labeled on the side wall of the tire. It looks like this tire is gonna take a 20-inch diameter by 1.95. I wanna make sure that when I buy my next one, that I'm looking at the correct size. We've got a 20-inch diameter, and this fits widths of 1.75 to 2.25. So this should be a perfect tube for this bike. Once you unbox that new tube, it's really important not to let it touch the ground. If it touches the ground, it could pick up a very small rock or pebble or thorn or whatever, and then when you inflate that tube, you could have another flat tire in the next 5 minutes. So make sure that you keep this clean. I'm gonna take the new valve stem cap off and just put a little bit of air in that tube. I just want to inflate it so that I can maneuver it into the tire. That's about good. I want to look for the valve stem hole in the wheel. That's right here. And place that valve stem into that hole. Now I'm gonna work the rest of the tube into the tire. The next part can be a little bit challenging depending on the temperature. The colder it is, the stiffer that rubber is going to be. So we're gonna start working that tire bead back into the wheel. But you want to continue to work that tire over the rim until it pops back into place. Now we can start filling it up. So we've got this beautiful vintage floor pump from 1857 or something like that. We're gonna hook up the valve stem and start pumping. How much air do you put in? Look at the sidewall of the tire and it should tell you a recommended PSI limit for that tire. This says inflate to 40 to 65 PSI, pounds per square inch. That seems about good. Let's check it out. Woo! This is called a tire gauge or a pressure gauge. This is gonna fit onto the valve stem and it's gonna tell me the pressure inside of the tire. 55, wow! All right, now that we have the right pressure inside of the tire, we wanna cap that valve stem just so no moisture or dirt gets in there. Now it's time to replace that tire. Very important, make sure you're placing it on in the correct direction. Make sure that your chain rings here are on your drivetrain side. Okay, so I'm gonna place that back in. Make sure that you're paying attention to exactly how the nut and the washer are seating into here. Might take a little bit of working to get them back between those brake pads. There we go, it's seated. Make sure that your washer's on the right side. So I'm gonna place the chain back on that. Oh, I'm getting grease on my hands. Mr. Burgett, is that okay?
It's okay.
I guess I can wash it off later. All right, so the chain is on the chain ring. And
hey, you just blew past an important topic for current events. Wash your hands frequently.
Oh yes, wash your hands.
We have plenty of soap.
Next, we are going to tighten those nuts back up. Finger tighten them. I prefer a regular old-fashioned combination wrench. I'm going to tighten that so that is snug. Just make sure there's no rattling. It looks and sounds fine, so I'm gonna turn it back over. And very important, don't forget to reattach your brakes. And you're done, just like that. And you're back on the road.
Easy peasy.
Yep.
Should we get the test rider in here?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's very important to then test ride your work. Oh yes, this works very, very well. Great job, me.
You look good on that bike.
Thanks.
You totally shouldn't buy a bigger one. That's totally not my 7-year-old bike.